Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Guitar Underground. I'm your host, Neil Santos. And let me tell you, the biggest lie in guitar practice is that mastering scales will make you sound musical. If you've ever practiced scales for years, but you still feel like your solos sound like exercises, then this episode's for you. All right? We're going to be talking about climbing ladders, why scales aren't music. I see this all the time in the membership and lessons with guitar players. It comes up a lot. It really does. So let's get into it today. Excuse me. It's kind of like the alphabet, right? Scales are like the alphabet, and practicing is useful, but no one wants to listen to you recite the A to Z over a backing track, right? You need to take it apart and use them in pieces for it to be useful. All right, so we're going to look at 5 ways that maybe you're not treating the scales as you should to get the most out of them. And then we're going to look at 5 actionable techniques that you can use today to start making your solos sound like solos and not like you're reciting the alphabet. All right? All right, cool. So if you've ever, learned multiple scale shapes, maybe multiple scales, right? Harmonic minor, Dorian, Lydian, Mixolydian, pentatonic, melodic minor. I don't know. The list is endless. Do you ever see the grimoire, the guitar grimoire? It's like a giant book, and I think there's multiple versions with like every scale you could ever have. Imagine is in there, and any scale you'd ever want is in there. But what good is it if if you're just playing up and down, up and down? I mean, that's how we practice scales, right? And so when it comes time to solo, maybe that's what comes out. So you can play them cleanly as anybody. You sound super professional, right? But when it's time to solo, you freeze. You just default to those robotic up and down patterns, and it doesn't sound like music. And so we're gonna look at that today. All right. If you're into this kind of approach, like simple, practical, no fluff stuff, make sure you follow the Guitar Underground, all right? So you don't miss an episode and you continue learning with us over here, all right? Okay. So let's get into it. Here's 5 reasons that maybe you sound like you're playing scales when you should be sounding like you're playing music. Reason 1, scales are just the raw material. They're not the music. Right? Scales are just a collection of notes, like ingredients. They're not the meal. So the scenario is that players run up and down the scale, wondering why it doesn't sound like music. They say, we go to the backing track and they play and they go, that's not doing anybody any good, So what you do is you don't play scales, you build music from them. Like a freedom comes from stop trying to use the whole scale and start choosing notes intentionally. All right. And we're going to look at a way to do that in the second half of the podcast. Point number 2, linear thinking is a trap. So most players think in a straight line, go to position 1, position 2, position 3, or the, E string to the A string to the D string, right? And that's never going to work. You start your solo and immediately you feel like you have to go somewhere. You want to go up, or if you're up, you want to go down. But music isn't linear. It's more of a conversation, Like if you were in a conversation with somebody at a party, hey, how's it going? Good to see you. And you're like, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. You say your alphabet. They're going to say, you're cut off. You can't have any more drinks or whatever. Maybe, or just walk away. That old Bart Simpson or, the Simpsons thing where it's like, I'm going to go stand over here now. And then they just stand over there and like look the other way. That's like the worst outcome. So It's not linear, it's conversational. Fretboard clarity comes when you start seeing the shapes rather as zones or even parts of the shapes, like the middle or the inside. I think I just heard someone's bell go off in their head, thinking like, um, yeah, so, it can be just a section of the shape. It can be jumping from this shape to the next shape, like a zone. So you don't always have to go up and down, up and down. That's point number 2. Point number 3 is you're practicing motion, not meaning, right? So when you sit and practice these scales, you're just practicing moving as fast as you can. You're trying to just practice. If you practice that, that's what's going to come out when you're soloing. So you have to change the way you're kind of training on these scales. And because what you practice will show up in your playing. So practice playing music with them. All right. And we'll look at a way to do that in the second half of the show. Point 4. All right. And this is a big one. More notes do not equal better solos. Right? If you feel like you have to fit in every single note from the scale in your solo, it's not, it's going to sound like you're playing every note in the scale in the solo. It's not going to sound like music. Like in a conversation, if you said every word I don't think that's actually going to work out. So less information, less overwhelm for both you and for the listener, because that's who you're really playing for, is the person listening to it, right? Maybe that's the difference, like if you're playing for yourself and you're like, I love when people when you like shred out, and they just go crazy, that's fine. But if you're playing for anybody else, a civilian, right? As I like to think of them, people that don't play, they're just out there enjoying music. They're not really traditionally going to like that stuff. That's more for musicians, and not even for all musicians, just musicians that like that sporty aspect of guitar, the physical sort of challenge of it, right? I mean, fast stuff is cool once in a while for anybody to enjoy. Like if it's in the context of a nice melodic solo, and then all of a sudden you get this ripping run and then leads up to that final note, that's an effective use of speed. But if your whole solo speed just to kind of impress, right? Or to get you out of a tight spot. I remember reading about way back in the day, interview with Greg Howe, the great fusion player. And it was when he was playing those pink Strats way back, had a crazy spiky mullet. Anyway, he said, and I didn't understand it at the time, but he said, sometimes I feel like playing fast is easier. It's almost like an out, right? It's an escape. Because when you're playing fast, you don't have to really think about what notes you're playing, right? If they're going to sound good or bad, they go by so quickly that it makes sense, You don't have to commit to one note and, all right, this note is the note I'm choosing over this chord at this moment of the song. You can just blast around and it doesn't matter. So maybe that's another reason you're playing fast, because you don't feel the confidence to slow down and that you're going to hit the right note and not hit the wrong note, So yeah, we're going to talk about how to slow down a little bit when you solo in the next part of the podcast. But finally, we have point 5. You haven't been taught to say something or how to say something, because most education focuses on what to play, not how to express yourself, right? They say, here's a scale, here's a triad, play it, play that. You know the shapes, but you don't know how to turn them into phrases, right? And that's all music is. It's phrasing, space, intention, Yeah, not just intention, but tension, and then release, and tension and release. So it's not just about the notes; it's what you do with them. And when you start thinking in phrases, the fretboard kind of just opens up naturally, and you'll just find that next phrase in the scale when you start doing it this way. So, all right. So there's 5 reasons maybe your solos sound like scales, and your scales don't sound like solos. And we're going to look at 5 actionable tips that you can use today to remedy that in your playing. But first, shameless plug time. If this is hitting home and you're realizing it's not about learning more scales, but using what you already know, which is important, I put something together that might help. It's a really quick pentatonic way personality quiz. It takes about a minute. It'll show you exactly where your playing might be getting stuck, whether it's phrasing, fretboard clarity, or just feeling, boxed in. Based on your result, you'll also get a free 5-lesson email course designed specifically for that area of your playing. If you want to check that out, it's over at pentatonicway.com/personality. It's super simple, but it's really eye-opening. So head on over there and check that out if that sounds interesting to you. All right, back to the program. So 5 actionable tips. Number 1, limit yourself to 3 notes in a pentatonic shape. All right? Improvise using only those. Force phrasing and creativity. That's what that does. I have a backing track here. Let me jam over it. And let me see. I'm going to pull the scales I'm going to use on the screen here. If you're listening, I'm kind of using my handy dandy scale trainer tool. Only found in the Pentatonic Way membership. Let me see. So we have A major, E major, B minor, and D minor. And I want to play it up the neck. I want to play it around the 12th fret. There we go. So for the A major, I'm doing the 4th shape of the pentatonic at the 9th fret. They're all mostly at the 9th fret. E major, I'm doing the 1st shape of the 9th fret. B minor, now I'm switching that 2nd shape at the 10th fret, and the same for D. That shape pulls double duty because each pentatonic shape or scale has a happy twin and a sad twin, I like to think of them as. So yeah, let's check that out. Get this jam track going. Yeah, all right. E. And then D. Right. So I'll try to stay on the bottom 2 strings. That would be like 4 notes. So you can see that just by using a few notes, you can get really melodic with it. It kind of forces you to. And by switching the scales like this, it helps. Like if I just stayed in A major the whole time, it won't be as easy. But let me try that. I'm just going to use that A major shape there. That sounds cool. I mean, it gets a little monotonous. And then you switch back to the switching the scale sister command with it. Sorry. All right, now I'm going off the rails. But that's the idea. That is the idea. Let me get back to my main screen here. You guys, you can see me. I can't see myself, so that's all right. I don't need to see myself. Yeah, so limit yourself to just 3 notes if you can, or maybe just 2 strings, right? If you're using pentatonic, right there you got 4 notes. And that will kind of, the limitations encourage creativity, which is, what we're after, really. It's music. We're just trying to be creative here. All right, next tip, add space on purpose. And I've talked about this one before, and I love how this sounds, and it really works. So you play a short phrase, right? And then you stop, and then you count to 2 beats before playing again. So it forces you to train like musical breathing, leave some space in between what you're doing. So let me try that again real quick. I'll use the same scales, same backing track. Let's go back a little. All right. Is the E, and here comes the B. 1, 2. 1, 2. 2. Even there, like waiting on that, when it hit the 1, just wait and do it. I wasn't sure that was going to work out, but I actually like the sound of it. So let's try it again. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Every time I do that, it's still scary. I got to be honest, because you're like, oh man, if I stop, I'm on this flow, I'm riding this wave. What if I stop? Am I going to be able to pick back up? But what I'm finding is the more I do that, the more confidence I have that I'm going to be able to like come up with something. And it's going to actually be cooler because it's going to be unexpected. Right. And I remember I was at Berkeley. Abigail Aronson was my teacher, and she was fantastic. And I always stuck with me. She said, play your phrasing a little after or a little before you think, or the audience is going to anticipate it, right? Keep them guessing. So either jump in early or hesitate and then play. And it's going to make, your phrases sound more, unexpected, off the cuff, engaging. Other words to describe what I'm talking about. So, let me see. That was number 2. Number 3, break the up and down habit. All right. So what you want to do is maybe start in the middle of the shape, or start on a note that you don't usually do, or move sideways instead of vertically. All right. So break that up and down habit. So let's check that out. What would that look like? Well, my phone is going crazy. I don't know if you can hear that. Super annoying, but all right. So here we go. Break the up and down habit. So if I start, I just use that first shape right now, the A. It's just up and down, right? But start in the middle. Do some string skipping. That obviously is going to break that up and down through. This is that zone playing. We're just like sitting in this section of the neck. That's another thing you can do is just work with sequences, right? Instead of, sorry with the screen, hope you're not getting seasick. Instead of just going up and down, break it into different groups, you know? That's just groups of 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Or 4s, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. That's going to break it up a little bit. And same thing with scales, like don't go from the bottom all the way to the top. That's not going to be very entertaining. Like halfway through, they're going to expect what you're doing, but you can do it for a bit. You know, 1, 2. Yeah, that's the idea. So break up that up and down habit by sequences, string skipping, just sticking in one spot, you know, like playing back and forth. Like a lot of melody lines that singers sing aren't like, they just kind of, na 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 na, you know, na na na. And they all just kind of stick around the same area and repeat notes, bend notes, the same, you know, get the most out of that. And I think the reason is because they don't have as much of a range as a guitar, you know, so you just work with what you got. Like David Lee Roth could sing like 5 notes, but he worked it, man. You know, he made it work with rhythm, with, you know, chutzpah. Yeah. So, yeah, break that up and down habit. All right, number 4, sing before you play. All right. So hum a phrase and then, you know, find it on the guitar. So that also, besides being more musical because you have this limitation of what you can sing, it's also going to help make that connection between your ear and your fingers. So let me try this. Going on a limb here. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. No. Da da da. Da da da. But even like, so I'm just sticking with that pentatonic shape. It's going to train your mind too, because you know what's available. Ba da da. Ba da da. Da da da. Da 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 da. Ba da da da. Da da da. Ah, there it is. Yep. Da 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 da. That's the rhythm. You just thinking of me. I'm looking at me sing. Oh, look at me. Da da da. Da da da. Da da da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Here. Da 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 da. Oh yeah. That's cool. So, and you're gonna, you know, it'll be a pattern interrupt too for what your fingers normally do. Like some of those were things I wouldn't really do. Like one note on each string and then 2 notes on the next one, you know, so I don't practice my pentatonics that way. So that's a good exercise to kind of train your, you know, the connection between your ears and your fingers. It's a pattern interrupt to kind of break the habits of what your fingers are doing. And it's informative for your brain to start choosing melodies that are available in the scale that you're using at the moment, which is cool. So that's like a trifecta. That's a triple threat exercise right there. That's like tip 4-1, 4-2, and 4-3. So, all right, sing before you play. All right, and last tip, number 5, repeat and develop one idea. And I was kind of doing this before because when you're limiting yourself to 4 notes, you really don't have a choice. You don't have much to work with. So let's try that again. You want to roll it back, Mike. All right. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. So repeat and develop one idea. And this is going to be super easy on the B minor and the D because it's the same shape. Right? And then so, yeah, repeating notes, repeating ideas. I hope you can hear that in there. Here, I'll try to talk. Here's a B minor, E major, the E. That's the idea. I tried to make it kind of obvious there. On some of them, I just kind of repeat the same thing over the A, the E, and the B, adjusting the notes for the different pentatonic scales that I was using. And then on the last note, on the last D, since it's the same as the B, I just kind of take it somewhere else. Do a little, that's where my using a scale going in a direction might be cool. Like you go in a direction and then go right back, turn it around, and then, land on that A, the first chord, that's when it can be useful. But if you're simply doing up and down, like we talked about, it's not as effective. You want to use it as a tool. You can't be your everything, right? But that being said, practicing the scale up and down is good practice, right? It's going to get your fingers nice and aligned and synced up, especially those sequences. So, all right. So, restating what it's about. Scales aren't music. They're just a toolkit. Music happens in how you use them, right? And we saw that today with the 5 tips. So if you've been feeling stuck, it's not that you're missing something. Obviously, if you're jamming up and down these scales, you know stuff, right? It's because no one showed you how to simplify it and just start breaking these things into little habits and little ways to frame these scales that turns them more into music, makes music more likely to happen, right? So, I'd love to hear from you. Have you felt stuck in the scale trap like this? If you have, let me know in the comments, man. And if this helped, make sure that you're following Guitar Underground and share it with someone who is also in the same place as you, and they'll probably thank you for it. So, all right. Until next time, guys, I'm Neil Santos, the Guitar Underground, and thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, man. Keep on picking. All right? All right.